Today we're going to be talking about text structures. And I know that it sounds a lot like text features, but it's a completely different thing. So let's dig in. There are 5 different kinds of text structures that are the most common, and those are the ones that we'll be going over in class. The first one is description. So think about your nonfiction texts that you've read, and think about, we've talked about author's purpose, right? And we've talked about the text features that we need to look for, but there's a text structure that the writer is using, and that's what we're looking at now. So the first one is description. A description is a text written in this text structure explains a topic, idea, person, place, or object by listing characteristics, features, and examples that describe it. So you'll have one main idea, and then you'll have a bunch of details about that main idea, describing it. That's what a description text structure is. And if you look at the bottom of this slide, you're going to see the signal words that are used when you have a piece of descriptive writing. So words like for example, for instance, such as, in addition, characteristics are, to illustrate, and in fact. Those are some signal words for the description text structure. The next one we'll look at is chronological order, and that is the one where you start at the beginning of a process and work your way step through step till the end of a process. All right, so in time order, the way things happen. So if you were going to explain how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you wouldn't start by put the 2 pieces of bread together and cut them in half and enjoy your meal, right? That's the last thing you would do. Right? So chronological order is a text that is written to describe an event or how to do something in the order that the events or steps occurred. And I really like that graphic organizer that you see an example of here off to the right. That is really helps when you're writing a chronological order piece to use a graphic organizer like that to get your steps all lined out. I do like that. Now take just a second and look at the signal words that would be used at the bottom of a chronological order piece. You can see that those steps, or those, signal words talk about first, next, then, so they would lead the reader through the piece that they are reading, and they would know, okay, this is a chronological order piece because it's telling me the order in which to do things. Next up, we have problem and solution. Problem and solution is another text structure. And in this structure, the author presents a problem and one or more solutions to that problem. The text may also include the pros and cons of each solution. Okay, so a problem could be there are too many potholes on our neighborhood streets. So what could the possible solutions be? What can we do to fix the problem? Well, we could call the city. So that's one possible solution. We could protest because the street is never getting fixed. I mean, there's a million different little things that we could do, right, to solve the problem. So those are the possible solutions that you might find in something like a problem and solution structure. Okay, the signal words are at the bottom, and throughout our lessons with each of these structures, you'll be reminded of what those signal words are. So don't think this is the first time you're going to see them. Next up is cause and effect. Cause and effect. And this is a big one for kids as they grow up. My little grandson is learning cause and effect, right? If he goes near the stove when it's on, he might get burned. There's a cause and effect, right? If he tries to go down the steps without assistance because he's just 1 year old, that could be a problem. Right? So there's a cause and effect. He might fall down. That might be the effect because he tried to go down by himself. All right, so a text written in this text structure is written in a way that tells the cause or causes of events and their effects. Compare, contrast. This is one that you should all be familiar with. This is when you take two or more topics and talk about their similarities and their differences. Okay, so think of those Venn diagrams that you've used over your time in school. Typically that is for compare and contrast purposes. All right, so I have a couple of additional slides here. So I want you to see the different kinds of graphic organizers that you might use for each one of these text structures. Okay, as I said, we just talked about compare and contrast. And so you'd have the Venn diagram. The chronological order, you'd have kind of a flow chart, right? Because you're talking about what happens first, what comes next, and so on. Problem solution, you have one main problem and then you have a lot of different offshoots that could be solutions to that problem. Cause and effect. The causes and then the arrow, they lead to the effect, what happens. And then our very first one we talked about, description. Think of that one more like a spider web, if you will. Your main idea is in the middle, and then all of the description about that main idea is off to the sides. The purpose for each one of these, and we talked about it, but I do want to review. Description. A text written in this text structure explains a topic, idea, person, place, or object by listing characteristics, features, and examples that describe it. So I could write an informational text about my Yorkies, my two dogs, and I could tell you all about Oliver and all about Rory, and that would be a descriptive text structure. Okay, I'm giving you all the information and describing them. It is nonfiction. They actually exist. It's not something I'm coming up with from the top of my head. Now, cause and effect. I could write a cause and effect paper about what happens when Oliver doesn't wait to be let outside to go to the bathroom. There's a big cause and effect right there, right? And so our cause and effect tells you a cause and what happens after that thing. Problem solution. There we go. The problem, Oliver barks nonstop every time somebody walks their dog in front of our house. That's our problem. What are some possible solutions? Well, we could shut the blinds. Or we could get a squirt bottle and squirt him every time he barks. Or we could holler at him or swat his nose. Now we're not swatters, so that probably wouldn't be one for us, but those are all problem solutions. Chronological order is next. So if I told you a story about how Rory and Oliver became members of our household, I would start at the very beginning and work my way through. Or if I was writing a text about the best way to give a dog a bath, I would start at the beginning and work step by step through how to do that. That would be chronological order. And then finally, compare and contrast. I could write a compare and contrast essay about Oliver and Rory and tell you all the wonderful things about each dog and compare their qualities and contrast their qualities. So I could talk about all the things they have in common and then the things that they are different about. For instance, Rory is a huge diva. Oliver is not. Okay, so I know it's silly that I use my dogs as an example, but just trying to help cement the understanding of these text structures in your heads. All right, and then as I said, as we work our way through this study on the text structures and informational writing, you will be able to see these signal words. So this is not the only time that you will be able to interact with them. I hope this gives you a little bit of a background or foundation, if you will, on text structures, and we are going to start working with them now.